It's really just to get a little bit of your story from when you started working with us to all the amazing stuff that you're doing now. So yeah, thanks for making the time again and for dealing with all the scheduling changes.
Thanks for having me.
Mm. Um, I know that you've worked and recorded with some incredible musicians. I'm wondering if you can share some really notable moments during collaborations in particular.
Um, I was fortunate in 2023 to record an album with Bon Iver, who's one of my favorite artists, and I had tracked down his producer. His name is Ryan Olson, a great producer, lives in Minneapolis, and I found out that he used to play upright bass. So when I found out that Ryan used to play upright bass, I was like, oh man, I got to make a record with him because my whole thing, as much as I love jazz, is making culturally relevant music on my instrument. I want to make music that people want to listen to, but I want my instrument to be something that people want to listen to. You know, I hear upright bass on Taylor Swift. I heard upright bass on Bon Iver's music before I played with him. I hear upright bass basically on everything that I listen to, but it's an instrument that isn't used very often. So I tracked down this dude Ryan, and I was like, man, you got to play this record for him. You got to get him on the record. And through a lot of negotiation, I was able to make it happen. And we did a song together on my record, and then I contributed to his song "Everything Is Peaceful Love," which almost won the Grammy, but it didn't. I forget who won. I think it was like The Cure or something, but I was pissed because I thought we were going to win. But it doesn't matter. It was a great experience, and
Wow.
I'll remember it for the rest of my life.
Hell yeah. Yeah, he's a favorite of mine as well, especially because of how many people he collaborates with and just like how expansive his sound is. So I was curious how that came about. And you're right, like the upright bass is super underappreciated instrument. It's in almost everything and the sound is so relevant. And so I think that's a really cool perspective. Um, are there any other collaborations that you want to point out?
There's a song on my album, Consider It, which is called Miracle, and I wrote that with artist Polisa, and I'm a big fan of that one. And there's another one with an artist, Dua Soleil, called Time and Time Again. Um, that's one of the bass lines that I've played where I'm like, all right, that was a good one. I'm proud of that one.
Cool. Yeah, that's another great artist. I'm not familiar with Polizia though, so
Yeah,
yeah.
she's really underrated. I think I would put her as one of the artists deserving of much
Cool.
wider recognition for sure.
Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah,
check it out. Um, Thank you.
yeah.
So have you always wanted to pursue a career in jazz in particular? And what are some influences in your early life that led you to this career as a musician?
So both of my parents are musicians, and they were really strict. There's a video of the basketball player Jalen Brunson, which is circulating around, where his father is screaming at him to you know, attempt the same shot like 15 times in a row, and then his shoe is untied, so he's like screaming at him and almost beating him over the head. That was my experience with my parents. They were extremely strict and hard on me. Like, I wasn't allowed to watch TV, I wasn't really allowed to do anything other than just practice and write music. And it wasn't so much that I wanted to be a musician, it was more that they wanted me to be a musician. But then I was really fortunate to go to LaGuardia High School, and
Okay.
the musicians that I was around when I was at LaGuardia were just amazing. I mean, Nick Dunstan, who's a great upright bass player, we're the same age. I was around him a lot. Another great bass player named Daryl Johns, who put a record out a couple years ago that's doing really well. I was around him a lot. And then Adam O'Farrell was there, the son of Arturo O'Farrell. I was just around the most incredible musicians when I was there. And it was like, how could I not want to be a musician if I'm around this all the time, you know? So that was where, even though I was really serious about music, that's where I really fell in love with music. And from that point, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing anything else, you know? I didn't really go to my academic classes. I didn't really take anything seriously other than just practicing and figuring out what I wanted to say as a musician. And I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, I think it reflects well onto your current career as a collaborator in so many of your projects, just being surrounded by so many people that are dedicated and so talented. And I know lots of people who have been to LaGuardia.
Yeah, it's a good list.
What do your parents play?
My mom wrote TV commercials back when there was a studio scene in New York, and my dad plays trombone. He's still active. He's still out there.
Cool. Do you play with either of them?
Yeah, I do. They used to live in New York. They both live elsewhere now, but yeah, when they lived in New York all the time.
That is so cool. They
Yeah,
must be very proud of what you're up to.
that's sweet.
Alrighty. Your recent album, Consider It, has gotten some great buzz online. It features some amazing collaborations, which we've talked about. What was your artistic inspiration for this album, and have you been happy with the reception?
My artistic inspiration was to do something on my instrument that is relevant sonically and culturally and can reach an audience of people my own age, as opposed to the older audience, which I love playing for, that is more common in jazz. I've been pretty happy with the reception. It's not often that an upright bass player gets to be on New Music Friday or Spotify's Picks of the Month or anything that I've been fortunate enough to be considered on. But I think, you know, now I'm focused on the next thing and the next record and trying to book more shows and trying to find more collaborators and trying to find a label. And I just try to stay focused on the next set of goals rather than, you know, basking in, oh man, I did this cool thing. Like it feels like I released that record like 3 years ago, you know, even though it hasn't even been a year. It feels like that was way in the past.
Yeah, I'm sure it was enough work to be like 5, 6 years. So
Yeah,
that
totally.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So what is the next step, or how had that experience informed what you want to do next?
Um, the next thing I want to do, I'm a big law of attraction person. Like if I talk about something, it'll happen. So I met with this label out in Los Angeles called R&R, and they have some huge artists. So I'm really hoping they sign my next record.
Cool.
If they're listening to this, you know, I hope the offer still stands. But yeah, I just finished the seeds of what's going to be another record.
Okay,
And I did it with my friend Peter, who plays keyboards for Justin for Bon Iver, and
cool.
it's a similar kind of sound. I mean, I associate that with the Midwest, but people have different associations with it. But to me, that's the Midwest sound, Minneapolis kind of sound, you know. So I'm just hoping that we can get some traction with this one, you know, and that we can just keep building and keep making it happen.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
If something's working, I think it's great to expand on it. Just
exactly.
keep
Yeah,
it going. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
exciting. I'll try to shout out R&R.
Thanks.
Give them a little call to action. Um, so why did you decide to stay in New York for college and afterwards? And are there any specific places in New York that you would say inspire your sound?
I got to be honest, I'm not even in New York
Yeah.
for the scene necessarily. I'm just here because I like New York. I am a New Yorker. It's just like a part of who I am. Um, I love the jazz scene here, but it's not the main reason I'm here. You know, it's really nice to be able to go hear some of the greatest music in the world, or be able to study with, you know, people who have invented the way our instrument is being played. Like I was at Ron Carter's house a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Like
That's great.
he's on literally everything, you know, and he's got this enormous house, and there's like a sculpture of him that was given to him by some art. Like you get to experience these crazy things being in New York, and you get to be around these unbelievable people and hear the best music. But overall, that's not really the reason why I'm there. Like if you got rid of the music scene in New York, I actually think I would still be in New York. So it's not necessarily the sound or like the club scene that has inspired me. It's more just like the energy of this place and the fact that everything is moving at 100 miles an hour, because like my brain moves at 100 miles an hour, and my like the pace at which I do things is extremely fast. And I always have like multiple ideas brewing, like a lot of creative people do. So I think being here is essential for me, more so about the pace than the sound of a certain scene.
Yeah, that's cool. And I'm sure having the separation now, being outside of the city, helps a little bit with that.
For sure.
It's cool to hear. I mean, I always thought of myself as somebody who likes a really fast paced. And when I moved to New York, I've been pretty challenged,
Totally,
to
yeah.
be honest. But it does have kind of a beat and a pulse to it. And
Definitely.
that's just like
Exactly.
essential to the city. Um, so now I want to talk a little bit about Jazz Generation.
For sure.
And I have only 40 minutes on my free Zoom account. So if we end, I'll just start a new one and send it to you. Um, can you share a little bit about your early experiences with Jazz Generation and our youth programs and how it has impacted your career as a jazz musician in New York?
Yeah, so I was in this program called Jazz Standard Youth Orchestra when I was like 14, and it was really cool because you got to play at the Jazz Standard every week. And for people who don't know what the Jazz Standard is, it was literally one of the best jazz clubs in the world. It closed during COVID, but it was one of the best clubs anywhere in the world. And the great chef, restaurateur Danny Meyer was also involved, and he was like the chef, and he would cook, not literally him, but his chefs would cook for us. So it was crazy because you got to play at the Jazz Standard for an actual crowd and then eat this incredible food. And we were like 14, 15 years old. So the fact that a program like this existed was crazy. And that's how I got linked up with Keyed Up and with Jazz Generation and with all the stuff that y'all are doing. And then just being in the scene, being around. I've played so many gigs that I find out later are a Keyed Up gig. Like I played with Kaz George for a while, who's an amazing saxophonist and composer. And like I found out after doing the gig with him a few times, like, oh, this place is actually only made possible by you guys. So it's a special thing, and I'm glad it exists.
Well, Jazz Standard Youth Orchestra is still going strong.
Yeah,
We have
yeah. They're at
here,
Ornithology now. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I think that's a really unique experience to have as a young player to
It's
like
pretty.
envision yourself in the world, actually
Yeah.
being there and doing the thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think about the Jazz Generation format of programs for youth feeding into programming for adults?
I think it's great. I mean, I'm an educator and I run a business called Better Bass Lessons. And in my business, we do a lot of workshops that mostly adults sign up for. I mean, it's open to anyone, but I think it's as valid for adults to learn music as children.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's good to know like those resources are available no matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is in education.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I just have one more. We see you've been very active creating educational content. Do you think there are things missing in traditional jazz pedagogy?
That's such a loaded question. I think the thing that's missing in traditional jazz pedagogy is the sort of acceptance that jazz is music for musicians, and that learning how to play jazz is not as much about learning to love jazz or listening to jazz all of the time or being a professional jazz musician necessarily, but it's about using jazz as a tool the same way you use growing up in the church as a tool or playing classical music as a tool. Jazz is a form of classical music, and it should be approached that way, where you are doing this because it is the foundation for all of Black American music. This is going to make you a stronger musician, whether or not you choose to do it or not. And when I was at Juilliard, the main thing that everyone wanted to do was be a 100% die-hard professional jazz musician that only makes a living playing jazz and recording jazz and teaching jazz and nothing else. And then I'm 5 years out of school now, and I look at all of I've done, and most of it is not straight ahead jazz. Most of it is something else. Even in my educational work, most of it isn't jazz. Most of it is, hey, here's a more efficient way to play the bass. I got to these conclusions and I got to these points in my career because I studied jazz, which made me a better musician and a better team player. But I think we kind of have to stop beating everyone over the head with recordings from the 30s and 40s and being like, if you don't like this, something's wrong with you. If you don't like this recording that was done 94 years ago, something's wrong with you. And instead, like, eat your vegetables. You might not like this recording because it doesn't relate to you, because it is from the 1940s, 20 years before your parents were born. But if you do this, it will make you a stronger musician and it will free you up to be able to do a whole variety of musical things. That's what I would say.
Beautifully, beautifully said. Yeah, I think jazz is very expansive, obviously. And, a lot of people like they feel it's not accessible, even people that aren't musicians, I think. And that can be a barrier to entry. And even musicians that treat it like it's golden, just like classical musicians that do that, it can kind of limit the form. So I always bring everybody I know to jazz shows and I just force them to come because it's not what you think it is. It's about, it's about the energy and the
Totally.
feeling of
Yeah.
it. So I appreciate that mentality. All right. Well, I think you answered everything very concisely and beautifully, and I appreciate it. I have a bonus question for you. Um, are there any other than Bon Iver, like dream collaborators who, like, one day, if you could work with anyone, even like, let's say alive or dead?
Taylor Swift.
Really?
I hear upright bass on so much Taylor Swift.
That is so funny.
Like, there's so many of her songs where I'm like, why is there not upright bass on this?
Yeah, 100%.
Not the last two albums, but you know, definitely some earlier stuff. I'm like, or another one would be, um, let's see, I'd say McGee also because he's so sonically curious that I think if you put upright on one of his songs and processed the hell out of it, I think it would work really well.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a video of Dijon and Mickey recording something. Maybe you've seen it in like they're like in a living room and they're all just like having the best time. And I don't know how many instruments are in that room, but they're like bouncing back and forth. And I think they're all similarly minded collaborators. That's how it seems.
Totally, yeah, 100%.
Cool. Well, I should have a draft of this in the next few days, and
Incredible,
you'll see it first and be able to tell me what you think before it goes anywhere. But
amazing.
I can't thank you enough for making the time and really appreciate getting the chance to talk with you.
Of
I
course.
love your music and your work and frequently recommend you to people, especially people who are not totally sold on jazz yet.
And thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good one.
You too.
I'll be in touch. Thanks,
Bye.
cool. Bye bye.